The relentless drumming of rain on the metal roof echoed through the quiet streets of the small town of Millbrook. Streetlights flickered as gusts of wind whipped through the alleys, bending trees and rattling windows. The sky, normally a calm blue during the day, had morphed into a dark swirling swirl of ominous gray clouds. Off the coast, an enormous hurricane was gathering strength, its furious eye inching ever closer to land. Many residents had already begun evacuating, packing up their cars and rushing to designated shelters. But not everyone left. Some believed the storm wouldn't be serious, or perhaps they just didn't have the means to leave. Among those who stayed was Lisa Carter, a woman in her early 30s with a warm smile, tired eyes, and a Walmart badge clipped to her blue uniform. She'd worked at the local supercenter for over a decade, a familiar face behind the checkout counter. Known for her kindness and patience, Lisa had always been underestimated. Those who saw her dragging her feet in a Walmart aisle or counting change at the register often overlooked her intelligence, bravery, or potential. She was just the girl with the badge, the girl who was happy to serve, but who was never expected to do much beyond her everyday tasks. But Lisa was more than her uniform. Inside, there was an iron resolve, a quiet strength born from years of hardship and facing life's storms, both literal and metaphorical. She knew her community depended on her, just as she depended on them. She often volunteered at local shelters, organized supplies, and looked out for her neighbors, even when others failed to notice. That morning, as dark clouds loomed and the ferocious storm surged offshore, Lisa's manager called her into the break room. The store was still open, but preparing for closure. The storm's fury threatened to make travel dangerous. Still, Lisa decided to stay behind, knowing that many of her neighbors and customers might need help as chaos ensued. As the wind howled louder and rain began pouring in sheets, news reports warned of the approaching hurricane, a Category 3 storm, with sustained winds up to 115 miles per hour. Reports warned that it could cause flooding, damaging winds, and widespread power outages. But amidst the chaos, Lisa remained calm. Her mind focused on one thing: keeping everyone safe. Suddenly, the store's radio crackled. A nearby evacuation center had received reports of residents trapped in their homes, unable to leave due to flooding and debris. Lisa's heart pounded. She knew she needed to do something, even if it meant risking her safety. Little did she realize, her acts of courage this day would soon transcend her humble role. As the storm intensified, power flickered, and the very walls of Millbrook seemed to shake with the fury of nature. The winds ripped through the town with destructive force, tearing shingles from rooftops and downing trees onto roads. Floodwaters began to rise in low-lying areas, trapping people, including elderly residents who couldn't evacuate quickly. Pressured by the emergency response team, Lisa volunteered to make an emergency run to check on a family trapped in a flooded home a mile from the store. She knew the roads might be impassable soon, but her determination outweighed her fear. She grabbed her raincoat, a flashlight, and a makeshift first aid kit, then headed out into the storm. In that moment, she was just a Walmart associate, overlooked by many, underestimated by some. But in her heart, she was about to become something much more: a protector, a hero in the eyes of her community. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The rain was relentless, pounding down in heavy sheets as Lisa navigated her battered pickup truck along the flooded roads. The windshield wipers struggled against the deluge, and the darkness was almost complete, save for the occasional flash of lightning illuminating the chaos. Every few seconds, the ominous roar of the hurricane's fury drowned out all other sounds, making progress difficult and dangerous. Despite the treacherous conditions, Lisa pressed on. Her heart pounded not out of fear, but out of purpose. She knew the family was trapped. Their home sat just past the flooded bridge, a place where the waters had risen so high that her usual route was nearly impassable. Her mind raced as she remembered the elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins, who lived alone. They often came into her store for supplies, and she had grown fond of their stories and warm smiles. Approaching the bridge, she saw it, a thin ribbon of asphalt barely visible under the swirling floodwaters. The currents beneath threatened to sweep away anything or anyone who dared cross. She hesitated for a moment, her knuckles white on the steering wheel, then took a deep breath. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. "Got to help them." She carefully stepped on the accelerator, the truck's tires slipping and sliding on the wet surface. As she crossed, water clashed against the sides, and for a moment, she feared the worst, that her vehicle wouldn't make it. But she pushed forward, fighting the floodwaters with all her might. On the other side, she spotted the house, a modest little dwelling with its porch almost submerged. She quickly grabbed a flashlight and stepped into the pouring rain, water pooling at her feet. Inside, she could see the faint glow of a flashlight. Mr. Jenkins' voice calling out in a shaky but alert tone, "Lisa, is that you?" "Yes, it's me, Mr. Jenkins. I'm here to help." "Can you come to the door?" The old man struggled to open the front door, exhausted and shaken. Lisa reached out and helped him step into the downpour. Mrs. Jenkins was nearby, clutching her umbrella and crying softly. Her voice trembled, but her eyes shone with gratitude. "I knew someone would come," she whispered. With the elderly couple safely in her vehicle, Lisa climbed back into her truck, carefully reversing out of the flooded yard. The storm's fury seemed to intensify as she navigated the treacherous roads back toward the store, her mind racing with concern not just for the Jenkins family, but for everyone stuck in the chaos. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, a distress call from a single mother trapped with her children at a nearby apartment complex. Without hesitation, Lisa made a split-second decision. She couldn't save everyone in just one trip, but she could do her best. Her truck fought to stay steady as she drove through the flooded streets, her headlights piercing the darkness, risking her own safety to save others. The wind shrieked around her as she finally reached the apartment complex, its parking lot flooded and partially submerged. She saw the mother waving frantically, holding her young children protectively. "Help! We're trapped!" she yelled over the howling wind. Lisa threw open her door and ran toward them, water swirling around her knees. Without regard for her own safety, she guided the mother and her children into her truck. The children clung to her as if she were a guardian angel, their faces pale but grateful. Back in the storm, Lisa knew she wouldn't be able to stay long at each location. She was risking everything, but the need was greater. She had to keep going, pushing through her own fears, her doubts, and the relentless storm. The sound of sirens in the distance signaled that emergency crews were finally arriving, but Lisa knew that many people hadn't been reached yet. Her focus sharpened. She couldn't save everyone alone, but she could make a difference. As she drove through the flooded streets, she looked at the family she just rescued in her rearview mirror. Though exhausted and soaked, a sense of pride surged within her. She knew this storm was far from over, and many more people still needed help. But in that moment, she realized that sometimes true heroism isn't about grand gestures. It's about everyday courage, about stepping up when it's needed most. Regardless of the uniform you wear, the rain continued to come down in relentless torrents, and the winds threatened to rip apart buildings and trees. But Lisa Carter was out there, determined, brave, and ready to fight the storm in whatever way she could. The storm raged on with unrelenting fury, transforming the familiar town of Millbrook into a battlefield of nature's might. But amidst the chaos, Lisa Carter's resolve only grew stronger. Every minute of her effort added another layer to her quiet heroism, and even though her body was exhausted, her spirit refused to give in. After rescuing the Jenkins family, Lisa received an updated report. A group of residents trapped in a community shelter, overwhelmed by rising floodwaters. Without hesitation, she shifted her focus and headed toward the neighborhood. The roads were increasingly treacherous. Debris floated in the streets, and trees had fallen, blocking some routes entirely. Yet, she navigated carefully, her mind fixed on the people she could still help. As she approached the shelter, she saw the chaos firsthand. The building's front yard was flooded. Residents were stranded on higher ground, trying to stay dry and safe. Some had tied themselves to posts or climbed onto furniture, desperately awaiting rescue. The sight made her chest tighten. Her truck was small, and the waters around her vehicle threatened to swallow her whole, but she refused to turn back. Instead, she stepped out into the pounding rain again, flashlight in hand, calling out, "I'm here. Stay calm, we're getting you out." One by one, she helped residents carefully climb into her truck. First was an elderly woman with a walker, then a teenage boy who had been trying to help his family. All of them were soaking wet, shivering from cold and exhaustion, but grateful beyond words. While helping the last group into safety, Lisa glanced up at the sky. An ominous black dome covered the town, and lightning streaked across the horizon like jagged scars. She knew this storm was nearing its peak. The eye of the hurricane was just miles offshore, and the worst winds were yet to come. In her mind, she kept thinking about her own family, if they were safe, if they had evacuated in time. She also thought about her co-workers, her friends, and everyone in Millbrook who depended on her, an ordinary woman who suddenly found herself in the role of protector for her entire community. Suddenly, her phone vibrated again. A message from the Emergency Response Unit. Further assistance needed at the downtown medical clinic. Some patients trapped in the basement due to flooding. Without hesitation, Lisa responded. She knew her efforts so far were just the beginning. She took a deep breath, pushed her doubts aside, and turned her truck toward the clinic. Another critical point of danger in this storm. Driving through flooded streets, she reached the clinic, which was rapidly filling with water. Inside, she could hear frantic voices and the faint cries of those trapped. As she entered, she saw the situation was worse than she'd anticipated. Water was already waist-deep, and some patients couldn't evacuate without help. Lisa coordinated with a flashlight, directing those able to walk to the back doors, then helping the others into her truck. She refused to leave anyone behind. The storm's fury was deafening. Trees swayed and snapped, and the ground trembled beneath her. Yet, she kept working until all who could be evacuated had been. By now, the entire town was shrouded in darkness. Power outages had knocked out the streetlights, and the only illumination came from flickering lightning and the lights from her truck. Through all this, Lisa felt a strange sense of clarity. Her actions, her effort, these were more than just attempts to help. They had become the embodiment of hope for a community in despair. As she drove the last group to the temporary shelter set up at the high school, Lisa looked back at the chaos behind her. The storm was intensifying, but so was her determination. She understood that her simple act of kindness, a Walmart badge and all, had become something extraordinary. Her mind drifted to the notion that sometimes heroism was born not from extraordinary powers, but from ordinary people making extraordinary decisions in moments of crisis. And Lisa knew she wasn't done yet. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As Lisa navigated through the storm, delivering rescue. After rescue, her mind began to quietly process the magnitude of what she was accomplishing. Every person she helped, whether the elderly couple, the single mother, or the patients trapped in the flooded clinic, represented a life she'd kept safe through her determination and courage. She wasn't just an ordinary woman anymore. She was becoming the embodiment of hope for her community, Her hands trembled slightly as she steering her battered truck down a narrow, flooded alley. The rain had started to let up just a bit, but the wind still howled fiercely, tearing at whatever stability the town had left. She looked in her rearview mirror and saw the line of headlights behind her, emergency vehicles. Neighbors, friends, all working together to combat the chaos. The unity she saw in that moment warmed her more than any sun could, yet beneath her pride stirred a flicker of doubt. Could one person truly make a difference in such a devastating storm? Was her effort enough? These questions gnawed at her, tugging at her resolve. But deep down, she knew she couldn't stop, not now. Not when so many depended on her. She stopped briefly at a small makeshift shelter where volunteers, rescue workers, and neighbors had gathered. People were visibly shaken, crying children, worried parents, tired volunteers. Lisa stepped out into the cold, soaked to the bone, and took a deep breath. Her uniform was soaked, her hair plastered to her face, and her cheeks flushed from the cold and exertion. She looked around at everyone and felt a surge of pride. "We're doing what we can," she announced, voice steady but full of emotion. "Keep helping each other. Stay safe." The local community was rallying. People sharing blankets, offering warm drinks, small acts of kindness that shone brightly. Amidst the darkness, it was a reminder that even in the worst moments, human compassion could cut through the storm's destruction and despair. Her phone buzzed again. A message from her manager. "We're hearing about your efforts. You're a real hero today." The words made her smile, but she also felt a humbling responsibility grow inside her. She was just a Walmart associate, after all. But right now, her actions had far exceeded that title. She thought about her family, her colleagues, and the town's residents. Suddenly, her small act of kindness was rippling outward, inspiring others to act. Neighbors who had once felt helpless now joined in, clearing debris, making sure everyone was accounted for, sharing supplies. Later, as the storm finally began to weaken, a sure sign that the hurricane was moving offshore, Lisa took a moment to gather herself. She stood atop a small hill, watching the rain subside, the winds dying down, and the sky clearer than it had been all day. The devastation was still evident: downed trees, flooded streets, and families mourning lost possessions. But hope was swelling within her. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing she had played a small part in saving her community. In that quiet moment, she realized something profound. Heroism wasn't about titles or accolades. It was about what you do when others need you most, even if you're just an ordinary person in extraordinary situation. As she turned to head back toward the shelter, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from the town's mayor, thanking her personally for her bravery. Her acts had begun to catch attention far beyond Millbrook, stories of her courage spreading on social media and local news. But Lisa's mind was focused on one thing: making sure everyone was safe, and that the community would rebuild stronger than before. She knew this storm, devastating as it was, had revealed the true spirit of her town: resilient, compassionate, and brave. The storm had finally loosened its grip on Millbrook, but the aftermath remained. The once vibrant streets were now lined with fallen branches, debris, and the trembling remnants of a community battered but unbroken. Yet amidst the chaos, a new sense of unity was beginning to take hold. Lisa sat outside the makeshift shelter, her soaked clothes clinging to her skin as she watched groups of neighbors working together. Volunteers were clearing debris, checking on residents, and sharing supplies. Her heart swelled with pride. Despite the destruction, her town was already showing signs of healing. Earlier that day, she had helped evacuate dozens of residents, risking her own safety time and again, driven by nothing more than a fierce desire to help. Now, as the storm shifted into a distant memory, the true work, rebuilding, was just beginning. She leaned against the rough wall of the shelter, her mind replaying the events of the day. She thought of the elderly couple she'd rescued. First, now safe and warm in a neighbor's home. She remembered the little girl clinging to her mother, and the countless others she'd helped. Those images weren't just stories. They were symbols of hope. The community leaders emerged with megaphones and flashlights, organizing cleanup efforts. The mayor, still visibly tired but grateful, approached Lisa with a wide smile. "I don't know how to thank you enough," he said sincerely. "You're more than just a Walmart worker. You're a pillar of this community. Your bravery saved lives today." Lisa hesitated, feeling both humbled and embarrassed. She was just a woman who saw a need and acted. But deep inside, she also felt a spark of pride. Maybe people like her, ordinary folks, could be the true heroes society needed. Later that evening, as the lights flickered back on in parts of town and emergency services worked tirelessly to restore order, Lisa found herself reflecting on the day's events. She'd never considered herself a hero before. Her life was simple. Her job was to help customers, to serve her community in her own quiet way. But today, her actions had spoken louder than any words. News of her efforts began to spread, both locally and online. Stories poured in of the Walmart associate who, in the face of a hurricane, refused to stand down. Social media posts praised her resilience and kindness, making her an unlikely icon of courage. Back at her small apartment, Lisa sat on her cramped couch, exhausted but satisfied. A tiny flicker of a smile crossed her face as she looked at the photos emerging on her phone. Pictures of neighbors helping neighbors, rescue teams pulling people from the floodwaters, and her own muddy hands helping a stranded family. She whispered softly to herself, "Maybe I'm just one person, but today I made a difference." And as she drifted to sleep that night, she held on to the hope that her story and others like it would inspire her community. And beyond, long after the floodwaters had receded, darkness still cloaked the town as dawn slowly broke over. Millbrook, casting a pale amber glow across a landscape irrevocably changed by the storm. The air was filled with a mixture of damp earth, wet wood, and the faint smell of hope and aroma that, despite the destruction, signified resilience. Lisa awoke in her small apartment, her body aching from hours of rescue efforts, yet her heart full of purpose. As she stretched and pulled on a tattered sweatshirt, her mind replayed the scenes of the previous day, the fear, the chaos, but, most importantly, the courage. The little things haunted her, the cracked roads, flooded homes, and the faces of those she couldn't reach in time. She wondered if she did enough, if her actions truly made a lasting impact. Yet, in her soul, she knew that every life she'd touched that day had helped ignite a collective hope for her community's recovery. She stepped outside, blinking against the rising sun. The sky was still streaked with dark clouds on the horizon, reminders that nature's fury had not fully passed. But despite that, people were already out and about, clearing debris, fixing fences, and sharing supplies, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of Millbrook. In the local square, community. Leaders and volunteers gathered, planning the next steps. They organized cleanup crews, set up food and water stations, and assessed the damage. News crews arrived, eager to tell the story of the woman whose bravery had become a symbol of hope. As she wandered through the crowd, Lisa was approached by a small boy holding a handmade sign. "Thank you, Lisa. You're our hero." Tears welled in her eyes as she crouched down and ruffled his damp hair. "Thank you, sweetheart," she whispered softly. "You're a hero too. Everybody is, in their own way." Everywhere she looked, she saw the results of collective effort. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers becoming friends, communities rallying after catastrophe. The storm had brought destruction, yes, but it had also sparked a movement of kindness and solidarity. Later that morning, Lisa sat with the town's mayor and emergency officials in a makeshift planning session. Maps and plans were spread out. unfolding tables, outlining areas still needing aid and repair. The mayor looked at Lisa with deep gratitude. "You've shown us what true leadership looks like," he said sincerely. "Your actions last night and today are inspiring others to step up. We're going to rebuild this town, stronger than ever." Lisa nodded, still processing her feelings. She felt a mix of exhaustion and pride. She wasn't used to this spotlight. But she also recognized the importance of sharing her story, not for fame, but to remind everyone that ordinary people can become heroes in extraordinary circumstances. By midday, the community had organized makeshift help stations with volunteers, distributing bottled water, canned food, and clothing. Children played among piles of debris, their laughter a small yet powerful reminder that life persisted beyond tragedy. As she helped organize supplies, Lisa thought about her future. She knew this storm would leave scars, but they would be scars of survival, of resilience. And she felt a renewed sense of purpose, one that would carry her through many more days of rebuilding and hope. In her quiet moments later that evening, Lisa reflected on her journey. She thought of her co-workers, her neighbors, and the countless lives she had touched. She realized that her small actions had inspired a ripple of bravery and kindness that would last long after the floodwaters receded. Her story was no longer just about an underestimated woman with a Walmart badge. It had become a symbol of community strength, courage, and the fact that sometimes the greatest heroes are those who step forward when the world needs them most. And as she looked out over the rebuilding town bathed in the warm glow of sunset, Lisa silently vowed to continue being that light for her community and for anyone who might be facing their own storms ahead. As days turned into a week, Millbrook's recovery efforts gained momentum. The images of destruction slowly gave way to scenes of hope, neighbors helping neighbors, volunteers working tirelessly, and new structures rising from the debris. Amid this resurgence, Lisa found herself at the heart of it all, her story, inspiring many to continue pushing forward. Every morning, she awoke to a town that, though battered, refused to be defeated. She spent her days assisting with supply distributions, helping clear debris, and checking in on families still displaced. Her humble acts, sharing a meal, comforting a frightened child, organizing volunteers, became the backbone of the community's healing. One particular day, while helping to set up a community project to rebuild local homes, Lisa was approached by a young girl named Emily. The girl shyly handed her a drawing, a colorful picture of her and her family smiling in front of a rebuilt house, a bright sun shining overhead. "You helped us," Emily said softly. "Thank you." Lisa's eyes brimmed with tears. She gently hugged the girl, feeling a warmth that surpassed any physical exhaustion she'd accumulated. It was the kind of moment that made her realize that her small actions had rippled far beyond what she'd imagined. Meanwhile, local media had caught wind of her story, and she was being recognized at community events, hospital visits, and even City Hall. People praised her not only for her bravery, but for her quiet strength, the kind that often goes unnoticed until moments of crisis. As her story became more widespread, Lisa often found herself speaking at community gatherings. She would remind the crowd, "We are stronger than any storm. Together, we can rebuild and thrive." Her words resonated with everyone, reminding them that resilience was a collective effort, fueled by compassion and courage. One afternoon, Lisa sat on the steps of the town hall, watching children play and neighbors share stories. Her phone buzzed. A message from project organizers about a new initiative to help families rebuild homes damaged by the storm. She felt a surge of pride. She'd played a small part, but now she could help lead larger efforts. Later, as she returned to her modest apartment, she reflected on how much had changed. She'd gone from feeling invisible behind her Walmart badge to becoming a beacon of hope. Her actions had demonstrated that heroism isn't reserved for the extraordinary. Sometimes, it's seen in simple acts of kindness, persistent efforts, and unwavering dedication. She paused at her doorway, a gentle smile forming. Despite the hardships, she knew her community was on the path to recovery, stronger than before. And she was part of that hope. Her journey, she realized, was far from over, but one thing was certain: she would continue to be a force for good, inspiring others to face their own storms with courage and kindness. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As the weeks progressed and the town of Millbrook gradually recovered, Lisa's role evolved from an everyday hero into a symbol of resilience and leadership. Her story had inspired countless others to step up, and her actions ignited a wave of volunteerism and community-driven initiatives. One sunny morning, Lisa found herself walking through the local park, now partially cleared of debris. Children played on new swings, neighbors shared homemade breakfast spreads, and volunteers assembled emergency kits. She felt a profound sense of purpose. This was more than just rebuilding homes. It was rebuilding hope. Her reputation grew not just locally, but regionally. Invitations came from neighboring towns, asking her to speak at community events, emergency preparedness seminars, and youth leadership programs. Each time, she shared her journey, emphasizing that heroism resides within everyone, and that acts of kindness could have ripple effects far beyond what anyone could imagine. During one such event, Lisa was unexpectedly approached by a local nonprofit organization dedicated to disaster response and community rebuilding. They asked her to become an advocate, leading volunteer training and inspiring communities to prepare and respond more effectively to future crises. Without hesitation, she accepted the challenge. She believed that her experience could serve as a blueprint for empowering others, particularly those who often felt overlooked or underestimated. Just like she once was. In her new role, she organized workshops on emergency preparedness, first aid, and community coordination. These events drew diverse groups, from teenagers to seniors, all eager to learn how to make their neighborhoods safer and more resilient. Throughout these efforts, Lisa's message remained clear: we are our greatest strength when we stand together. Small acts of kindness and preparedness can transform a community in crisis. Her leadership also extended into advocating for better disaster planning at the municipal level. She testified before city councils, urging improvements in early warning systems, evacuation procedures, and resource allocation. Her voice carried weight because it was born from first-hand experience, and people listened. One afternoon, after a particularly successful volunteer training session, Lisa sat on a bench overlooking the skyline of Millbrook. The vibrant community she saw was a testament to collective effort. She realized that her journey had sparked a movement, an enduring legacy rooted in courage, compassion, and leadership. She thought about her future, envisioning a community where no one felt helpless in the face of disaster. And she knew she would continue to dedicate her time and energy to that vision. In her heart, Lisa understood a powerful truth: heroism isn't just about saving lives in moments of crisis. It's about inspiring others to become the heroes in their own lives every day. The days turned into months, and Millbrook streets began to sparkle anew. Faded paint was restored. New trees lined the streets, and the community's spirit shone brighter than ever. Yet beneath the surface of restoration, Lisa's journey had only just begun. Her tireless work had garnered attention far beyond her small town. Invitations flooded her inbox from regional conferences to national organizations seeking her insights on resilience, leadership, and community recovery. Each invitation was a reminder that her voice was making an impact. One crisp autumn afternoon, Lisa was invited to speak at a national conference on disaster preparedness and community rebuilding. Standing on stage in front of hundreds, she shared her experiences: how a Walmart badge became a symbol of everyday heroism, how small acts can spark big change, and the importance of community unity. As she spoke passionately about her journey, she saw something remarkable in the audience: nodding heads, inspired faces, and a renewed sense of purpose. Her words resonated, reminding everyone that heroism isn't reserved for a select few. It's accessible to all, often hiding behind simple acts of kindness and courage. After her speech, she was approached by leaders from various organizations interested in partnerships and local activism. She was offered roles in community organizing, disaster response planning, and youth mentorship programs. For the first time, Lisa saw herself stepping into not just a local hero, but a national advocate. She returned home with a renewed sense of purpose. She began organizing workshops and seminars for communities prone to natural disasters, sharing her first-hand account and practical advice. Through these, she empowered countless individuals, teachers, volunteers, children, to take active roles in their own safety and recovery. Back in Millbrook, her influence was palpable. A new community center opened, dedicated to emergency preparedness and resilience education. Local schools invited her to speak to students, inspiring the next generation to see themselves as potential heroes. Her story had become a beacon, inspiring hope, action, and a shared responsibility to face challenges head-on. But through all the success, Lisa remained humble. She knew her true strength was rooted in her community's collective spirit. Her journey was a testament to the fact that when ordinary people come together with purpose, they can transform adversity into opportunity. One evening, as she looked out from her small apartment window, Lisa reflected on her growth. She realized that her life since that storm had shifted. Her purpose was clearer, her voice stronger, and her impact deeper. In her quiet moments, she smiled, knowing that she had stepped into her own power, not just as a hero in crisis, but as a leader in peace and rebuilding. And she eagerly looked forward to new horizons, confident that her story was just beginning. Months after the storm, Millbrook had transformed from a town battered by disaster into a symbol of resilience. But Lisa knew that true recovery wasn't just about rebuilding structures. It was about shaping a future where her community could stand strong against any challenge. One evening, Lisa sat in the new community center she helped launch, surrounded by local officials, volunteers, and residents. They had come together to discuss future initiatives to prepare for unpredictable natural events, as well as ongoing social projects to uplift underserved populations. She looked around the room, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had come so far from her days behind the Walmart register, underestimated and unnoticed. Now her voice carried weight, and her actions had begun to inspire systemic change. She spoke passionately about a vision: a town where every family had access to emergency education, where children learned preparedness from a young age, and where every citizen felt empowered to act in times of crisis. Preparation isn't just about plans and maps, Lisa explained. It's about community, trust, and kindness. We must build a culture where everyone understands their role and looks out for each other. Her words resonated deeply. The community agreed to establish ongoing training programs, youth mentorships, and neighborhood watch groups focused on disaster readiness. She also proposed creating a volunteer corps, a dedicated team of residents trained in first aid, emergency response, and community organizing. As the meeting concluded, residents approached her, thanking her for her unwavering dedication. A young woman took her by the hand and said, "You've shown us that even one person can make a difference. I'm inspired to do the same." The following week saw an influx of volunteers eager to learn and participate. Schools organized drills, local businesses sponsored safety workshops, and families prepared emergency kits. Lisa's efforts had sparked a movement, a collective awakening that prioritized proactive community resilience. At a celebratory event marking 6 months since the storm, Lisa took the stage once more. She shared her story, emphasizing that heroism isn't about a singular act but about continuous effort. About making a difference every day. She closed with a powerful statement. We all have the power to be heroes, not just in moments of crisis, but in everyday acts of kindness, leadership, and care. Together, we can create a future where no storm, natural or human-made, can break us. As the crowd cheered and clapped, Lisa felt a surge of hope. Her journey had come full circle, from a humble Walmart worker to a community leader and advocate. Yet, she knew her true purpose was just beginning, because real change, she believed, was a journey, not a destination, a continuous commitment to uplift, protect, and empower everyone around her. As the months slipped by, and Millbrook continued to grow stronger, Lisa found herself increasingly dedicated to nurturing the next generation of leaders. She believed that sustainable change came from empowering young people to see their own potential, just as she had discovered hers amid the chaos of that storm. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Lisa visited the local high school to speak at an assembly. The gym was filled with eager students, many of whom had heard her story through community channels or social media. As she stepped onto the stage, she looked out over the sea of bright faces, hearts open and hungry for inspiration. Might have started as just someone with a Walmart badge, she began. But I realized that heroism isn't about what you wear or what you have. It's about what you're willing to stand up for when others need you. Every single one of you has that same power. You don't have to wait for a storm to show your strength. You can start today by being kind, helping a friend, trying something new, or standing up for what's right. The students listened intently, some nodding, others taking mental notes. Lisa shared stories from her own journey, the fears she'd faced, the doubts she'd had, and how one act of courage had changed her life forever. She reminded them that heroism begins with small steps, acts of kindness, standing up for classmates, preparing themselves and their families. After the assembly, several students approached her, eager to learn more. She spent the afternoon in small group discussions, mentoring those interested in community service, leadership, and emergency preparedness. She encouraged them to imagine a future where they could be the ones making a difference during crises. Just like her. In the weeks that followed, Lisa helped launch a youth leadership program at the community center, designed to teach kids about disaster response, teamwork, and civic engagement. The program equipped participants with skills to organize neighborhood drills, support vulnerable residents, and advocate for positive change. One of her most inspiring protégés was a shy girl named Maya. She had lost her home in the flood but had found strength in volunteering and learning new skills. Maya often said, "You showed me that even if I'm small, I can make a big difference." Lisa saw herself in Maya, a reminder that leadership isn't about age or titles but about heart and action. She mentored her, guiding her through projects and encouraging her to believe in her own potential. Meanwhile, Lisa's impact rippled beyond the town. She was invited to regional youth conferences, inspiring other communities to develop their own programs. She became a voice for youth-driven resilience initiatives, amplifying the message that hope, passion, and courage could be cultivated in young minds. That evening, back at her apartment, Lisa reflected on her journey. From the girl underestimated by many to a leader inspiring hundreds, she realized her greatest legacy was not just in the rescues she'd made, but in the lives she'd touched and the futures she'd helped shape. Her story was a testament to that vital truth. The seeds of heroism grow strongest when nurtured in the hearts of the next generation. The small town of Millbrook had become a symbol of resilience and unity, stories of heroism and hope spreading far beyond its borders. And at the heart of it all was Lisa Carter, whose quiet courage had ignited a movement of kindness and preparedness. One crisp autumn evening, Lisa sat in the community hall as the town held its annual awards ceremony. The room buzzed with anticipation as residents and local officials gathered to celebrate the collective achievements of their town, and, this year, to honor someone who had truly embodied heroism. When her name was announced, Lisa stepped onto the stage, humble yet overwhelmed by the applause and warm smiles. The mayor approached her with a shiny plaque, a recognition award for her extraordinary acts during the storm and her ongoing leadership efforts. "I never expected this," Lisa said, her voice thick with emotion. "All I did was what anyone should do, help each other. But I'm grateful for this recognition because it reminds us all that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when we stand together." The crowd cheered again, and a local radio station captured her speech. In her remarks, she emphasized that her efforts were just a reflection of the community's strength, resilience, and care. "I hope my story inspires each of you to see that heroism isn't about big gestures or titles," she stated. "It's about showing up every day for your neighbors, your friends, and your family. We never know when a storm might come, but if we are prepared and united, we can weather anything." News outlets picked up the story of a Walmart employee turned local hero and national advocate. Her face appeared on newspapers, radio spots, and social media feeds. Schools used her story to teach lessons about leadership, compassion, and civic responsibility. And in the heart of her community, Lisa's influence deepened. She continued her advocacy, mentoring young leaders and promoting community resilience programs. Her simple act of helping in a storm had sparked a movement that would outlive her, shaping the future of Millbrook for generations. On her way home from the ceremony, Lisa marveled at how far she'd come. She reflected on her humble beginnings and thanked her community for believing in her. This recognition wasn't just about her. It was about all the quiet heroes whose stories often go untold. Looking ahead, she knew her journey was far from over. She had learned that true leadership was about service, humility, and inspiring others to step into their own power. And she was determined to keep doing just that. Her story had become a testament to the idea that sometimes, even the smallest act of kindness can change the course of many lives. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As the seasons shifted from vibrant autumn leaves to the quiet hush of winter, Lisa's dedication to her community grew even more profound. She realized that her journey from a humble Walmart associate to a community leader had only just begun. The impact of her actions inspired her to find new ways to give back, creating opportunities for even more people to thrive. She launched a Heroes in Training program, a series of workshops and mentorship sessions designed to empower local youth to develop leadership skills, civic awareness, and resilience. With support from local businesses and organizations, the program offered training in first aid, emergency planning, and community service projects. Lisa believed that cultivating these skills early could plant the seeds of future leaders. One cold December day, she organized a community winter festival, a joyful celebration of hope, unity, and progress. Families gathered in the town square, enjoying hot cocoa, caroling, and a display of community art. Lisa was there, helping children decorate snowmen, sharing stories of kindness and resilience. Her sister, noticing Lisa's tireless energy, remarked, "You've changed so much, from the girl in the store to the leader everyone looks up to. How do you do it all?" Lisa smiled softly, her heart full. "It's about believing in people, believing they can be the heroes of their own stories. I just want to show them that even small acts make a big difference. Together we're building something stronger than any storm." During the festival, she received heartfelt thanks from residents. An elderly man approached her, clutching a small photo album filled with pictures of the storm and the day of her first rescue. "I never thought I'd see the day Millbrook would bounce back so beautifully," he said, eyes shining. "And you showed us that hope can be born from the toughest times." Moved by these words, Lisa took the stage to speak once more about resilience, community, and the power of collective effort. She challenged everyone to continue working together, to make Millbrook a place where no one was left behind. As that evening wrapped up, Lisa stepped out into the crisp winter air, feeling a deep sense of purpose. Her journey had always been about more than individual heroism. It was about fostering a ripple effect, planting seeds of hope, kindness, and action that would grow for generations. She knew that each day offered a new opportunity to serve, to lead, and to inspire others. No matter how small the act, it contributed to a brighter future. And as she looked up at the starry sky, Lisa silently promised herself she'd keep moving forward for her community, for her family, and for everyone. Still waiting for their moment to shine. Just as Millbrook seemed to be settling into a period of renewal, a new challenge emerged, one that threatened to test the very fabric of the community Lisa had helped rebuild. A few weeks after the winter festival, a severe snowstorm warning was issued for the region. It wasn't expected to be as devastating as the hurricane, but the accumulation of snow and ice posed its own dangers: power outages, health risks from the cold, and potential infrastructure damage. Many residents prepared by stocking supplies, but Lisa knew that emergencies like these could still catch people unprepared, especially vulnerable populations such as the elderly or those living alone. She sprang into action, mobilizing her network of volunteers and community organizations. Her new role as a leader meant more than responding to hurricanes. It was about proactive, sustained preparedness. She coordinated efforts to check on neighbors, especially seniors, and set up warming centers and emergency supply stations. Yet, as the first snowflakes began to fall heavily that evening, a new problem emerged: a power outage in a part of town, caused by an ice-laden tree crashing onto a power line. The affected area was home to several families, including some with small children and elderly residents. Without heat or light, these families faced the risk of hypothermia and other cold-related issues. Lisa didn't hesitate. She gathered blankets, flashlights, and warm beverages, and relayed her plan to a team of volunteer drivers. She led the effort to reach those in need, delivering supplies, checking on their well-being, and helping them regulate their heating sources safely. When she arrived at the first household, she saw a mother frantically trying to keep her children warm, with worried eyes and trembling hands. Lisa offered comfort and practical help, ensuring they had enough blankets and safe heat sources. She stayed longer, making sure everyone was safe and knowing that her presence brought reassurance. As the night deepened, the community rallied around her. Neighbors organized shoveling crews to clear snow and ice, while others managed to restore some power through emergency generators. The town's resilience was tested again, but Lisa's leadership kept the momentum going. In the quiet hours of the early morning, Lisa sat outside in her coat, looking at the stars peeking through the clearing clouds. Despite the cold and the fatigue, she felt a surge of hope. They had faced storms before and come through stronger, but she knew that the true strength of her community lay in their unity, preparation, and kindness. Her resilience, once born out of necessity, had become a guiding light for her community. Today, she understood that leadership isn't just about responding to crises. It's about building a legacy of preparedness, compassion, and hope that withstands any storm. As dawn approached, Lisa was already planning the next steps: community training sessions, home safety assessments, and strengthening local support networks. No matter what challenge arose, she was ready, because her community had learned that together they could face anything. As the snowstorm gradually passed, the town of Millbrook shifted from crisis management to recovery. But for Lisa, the focus had shifted even more toward long-term resilience. She understood that true leadership wasn't just about responding to emergencies. It was about fostering a culture that prioritized preparedness every day. One crisp spring morning, Lisa stood outside the new community center, now fully operational and bustling with activity. Local residents lined up for workshops on home safety, emergency kits, and basic first aid. Adults, teens, and seniors alike were learning practical skills that could help save lives. She moved through the crowd, offering encouragement, answering questions, and sharing her own stories of resilience. Her experience had taught her that actions speak louder than words, and that leading by example was the most powerful way to inspire lasting change. In one of the workshops, Lisa demonstrated how to assemble and maintain an emergency kit. She guided a group of teenagers to pack essentials like water, non-perishable food, flashlights, and first aid supplies. "You don't need fancy equipment," she explained. "Just think about what you and your family might need if you get stuck or lose power." Preparedness is a habit, something you can do every day to protect those you love. Meanwhile, she worked with local schools to incorporate emergency preparedness into their curriculum, ensuring that students learned vital safety skills from a young age. She believed that empowering children with knowledge would help build a generation resilient to crises. Over time, Lisa's efforts attracted community volunteers who wanted to join her initiatives. They organized neighborhood patrols to check on vulnerable residents, created a buddy system for seniors, and developed a plan for rapid response to future emergencies. Her leadership also caught the attention of neighboring towns. Officials from nearby communities reached out, seeking her advice on developing similar programs. Lisa humbly offered her insights, emphasizing the importance of community involvement, ongoing education, and fostering local leaders. That evening, as she gazed out at the sunset over Millbrook, Lisa reflected on how her life had changed since that stormy day in the supermarket aisle. She had learned that leadership isn't about titles or recognition. It's about daily actions, building trust, and inspiring others to do the same. She felt grateful for the opportunities to serve, knowing that her efforts were planting seeds of hope and resilience far beyond her own story. And deep down, she knew her journey was far from over. The strength of her community, founded on kindness, preparation, and shared purpose, was proof that any storm, no matter how fierce, could be weathered when people come together. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As spring blossomed across Millbrook, the community gathered once more, this time for a celebration. The town's annual Resilience Festival was a time to honor the hard-won progress, to celebrate the strength of their bonds, and to recognize the unsung heroes who had made the difference. At the center of it all was Lisa Carter, standing humbly among the crowd, her eyes shining with gratitude. She wasn't seeking praise, she was simply proud to see her community thriving, united in purpose and hope. The event was filled with laughter, music, and heartfelt speeches. Local leaders highlighted the collective efforts that had transformed Millbrook from a devastated town into a model of resilience. But the highlight of the evening was a special awards ceremony honoring those whose actions had exemplified heroism, compassion, and leadership. When Lisa's name was announced to receive the Community Spirit Award, she hesitated, then stepped forward, overwhelmed yet touched. She accepted the trophy with humility, saying, "I'm just one of many brave hearts in this community. We all played a part in the recovery, neighbors helping neighbors, volunteers working tirelessly, children with big dreams." Her speech was simple but powerful. "What I've learned through this journey is that the real strength of a community lies in its people, in our willingness to support each other, to listen, and to stand together. We've faced storms together, and now we're building a future rooted in hope and unity. Let's keep this spirit alive, because together we can face whatever comes next." The applause was thunderous. People celebrated not just Lisa, but their collective resilience. The night closed with fireworks lighting up the sky, reflecting a new dawn for Millbrook, one grounded in community, courage, and caring. Later, as she watched families enjoying the festivities, Lisa reflected on her journey. She realized that her story, once about a simple act of kindness, had grown into a movement of hope that touched countless lives. Her heart was full, knowing her community had embraced the spirit of heroism through everyday actions. She understood that her role was not just to lead, but to inspire everyone to see the hero within themselves. As she wandered home under a canopy of stars, Lisa felt a quiet confidence. The storms may come and go, but her community's resilience, built on kindness, preparedness, and unity, was unbreakable. And she knew, without a doubt, that together they would continue to thrive, no matter what the future held. In the weeks that followed the celebration, Lisa's commitment to her community deepened. Recognizing that resilience requires sustained effort and collaboration, she reached out to local nonprofits, schools, churches, and business leaders to forge stronger partnerships. Her goal was clear: to create a unified front that could proactively address future challenges and foster ongoing community development. With her natural leadership and genuine compassion, she became a catalyst for a new initiative called Bridges of Hope. The first project focused on establishing neighborhood resilience teams, small groups of residents trained in communication, basic first aid, and resource coordination. These teams would serve as first responders within their own blocks, helping neighbors during emergencies and supporting ongoing community needs. Lisa organized a series of workshops to train these teams, emphasizing the importance of trust, communication, and inclusivity. She invited experts in emergency preparedness to lead sessions and used her own experiences to inspire participants. One such session was held at the community center, where she shared stories of her storm rescues, highlighting the importance of teamwork and preparation. As she spoke, she saw the faces of young adults, seniors, and families all eager to take an active role in their neighborhood safety. Resilience isn't just about responding to disasters, Lisa explained. It's about building relationships, so we're stronger together every day. When we know each other, trust each other, and work as a team, we can face anything. Her efforts caught the attention of local government officials, who offered support and resources. They provided supplies, facilitated communication channels, and even helped develop a community-wide emergency plan, something Millbrook had never had before. Meanwhile, Lisa's Bridges of Hope campaign expanded into youth mentorship, environmental sustainability, and after-school programs, growing her vision of a community that thrived holistically. One day, during a neighborhood cleanup event, Lisa reflected on how her simple act of helping during a storm had blossomed into a movement. She watched children planting flowers, seniors sharing stories, and neighbors supporting each other with contagious smiles. She thought about her own journey, the self-doubt she once carried, the storms she fought through literally and figuratively, and how each step brought her closer to creating a legacy rooted in compassion, leadership, and resilience. As the sun set, she took a moment alone on a hill overlooking her town, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. She had started out just trying to help a few neighbors, and now her efforts had woven into the very fabric of her community's future. Her message remained clear: building a resilient community is an ongoing process. It's about showing up, sharing strengths, and believing in each other. That's how we turn challenges into opportunities. And as she watched the lights flicker on in homes across Millbrook, she whispered a quiet prayer that her journey would continue to inspire generations to come. With each passing year, Millbrook's community grew stronger and closer. To honor their journey of resilience, unity, and hope, the town organized its first annual Celebration of Hope, a day dedicated to recognizing everyone's contributions and reminding each other that they could face anything together. Lisa was chosen to be one of the event's keynote speakers, a role she humbly accepted. She stood at the center of the town square, now decorated with banners, flowers, and messages of gratitude. Children ran around, families shared meals, and neighbors mingled, sharing stories about how each person had helped turn adversity into opportunity. As she looked out at the crowd, Lisa felt a deep sense of pride. Her story, once small and humble, had become a beacon of inspiration for generations. She thought about her own growth, from a woman underestimated at her job to a leader who had helped rebuild an entire community. She stepped onto the stage, took a deep breath, and addressed the gathering. Today we celebrate not just our survival, but the strength that comes from hope, kindness, and unity. Every one of us has a role to play in making this community better, stronger, and more prepared for whatever comes next. She shared stories of the storm, her efforts to help others, and how the community's resilience had inspired her own journey. When we come together, nothing is impossible. We've seen that during our hardest times, and we've proven that hope can bloom even in the darkest places. Then, she unveiled the new Hope Garden, an expansion of the community center's grounds, a vibrant space filled with blooming flowers, trees, and inspiring messages written on colorful stones from residents. The garden symbolized their collective strength and their commitment to nurturing hope. As the celebration continued, residents participated in activities like disaster preparedness games, storytelling sessions, and creating care packages for those in need. The event fostered new friendships, renewed spirits, and reminded everyone that they were part of something bigger than themselves. Later that evening, Lisa reflected quietly beneath the sunset, watching families gather around fire pits, sharing laughter and warmth. She knew that their community's true strength was rooted in the compassion they shared every day, not just during emergencies. Her journey had become an enduring legacy, a testament to the power of hope, perseverance, and leadership. And, as the stars appeared in the sky, she whispered softly, "Together, we can face anything and build a future brighter than ever." She was filled with gratitude for the community that had believed in her, and for the opportunity to continue making a difference, one act of kindness at a time. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. As night fell over Millbrook, Lisa sat on her front porch, gazing at the starlit sky. The gentle, cool breeze carried the faint sounds of the town settling into quiet. Her mind was filled with reflections, not just on the recent years of her journey, but on the profound changes within herself. She remembered her early days, working tirelessly behind a cash register, feeling invisible and underestimated. The hurricane, the community's rebuilding, the leadership, all of it had shaped her in ways she never imagined. She had learned that heroism wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about staying true to her values: kindness, service, and hope. In her quiet moments, Lisa had discovered that her journey had become more than a story of emergency response. It was a voyage of self-discovery. With every act of kindness, every life she touched, she found herself becoming more compassionate, resilient, and confident. She gently touched the small pendant around her neck, a keepsake from her mother, a reminder of her roots and the values she carried with her. Her mother's words echoed softly in her mind: "The real strength comes from within. Never forget that even the smallest light can dispel darkness." As she looked up at the stars, Lisa thought about how her life's purpose had expanded. Her once simple goal of helping neighbors during storms had grown into a mission to empower people, nurture hope, and inspire a community that refused to give up. She felt a deep gratitude for the countless lessons she had learned along the way, that leadership is rooted in humility, that change starts with one person's conviction, and that genuine heroism is about lifting others, especially when they need it most. And she realized that her story was still unfolding, that each new day offered an opportunity to grow, to give, and to inspire. She had become a living testament that even in the face of adversity, hope and resilience could transform lives. With a peaceful smile, she whispered a quiet prayer, thanking the universe for guiding her, for her community's strength, and for the new purpose she'd discovered. Her heart was open, her spirit renewed, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Tonight, she reaffirmed her commitment to continue serving, to keep shining her light, and to remind everyone that within each of us is the power to create change, no matter how small it seems. And somewhere deep in her soul, she knew the best was yet to come. As the seasons continued their gentle rotation, Lisa knew her journey was far from finished. Every challenge faced, every life touched, had woven a tapestry of resilience that stretched beyond her own vision. But what excited her most was the realization that her story was only a chapter in an ongoing story of hope and community strength. Standing once again in the center of Millbrook's vibrant town square, now revitalized and thriving, Lisa looked out at the faces of friends, neighbors, and new friends she had yet to meet. Their eyes reflected stories of hardship overcome and dreams fulfilled. It was in these shining eyes that she saw the future, a future where kindness and courage would continue to flourish. She thought of all the lessons she had learned along her journey, that leadership is rooted in humility, that true heroism lives in everyday acts, and that hope can sustain even the darkest storms. And most importantly, she believed that everyone has the power within themselves to create change. Turning to the crowd, Lisa raised her hands in a gesture of unity. Her voice, confident and warm, echoed across the gathering. Our journey doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. Together we've faced storms, built bridges, and nurtured hope. And tomorrow we'll do it again, stronger, wiser, more determined. She paused, letting her words sink in, then added with a bright smile, "Every one of you has the power to be a hero. Keep dreaming big, acting with kindness, and supporting each other. Because when we come together, there's nothing we can't overcome." The community erupted into applause. People cheered, shared stories, and pledged to continue building a future where hope and resilience were the foundation of every day. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over Millbrook, Lisa quietly rejoiced, knowing that, through her efforts and their collective spirit, the best days were still ahead. Her story was never just about surviving storms. It's about thriving in their aftermath and empowering others to do the same. Because, in the end, the greatest legacy isn't what one person can do alone. It's what we all can create together. As the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a warm amber glow over Millbrook, Lisa stood silently on the hill overlooking her beloved community. The scene was serene, yet within her, a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions swirled. This was a moment of reflection, an opportunity to ponder not just what had been accomplished, but what was still possible. She thought about the many nights she had spent tirelessly working to turn the tide of destruction into hope. Days filled with organizing, coaching, inspiring. Nights filled with gratitude and a profound sense of purpose. She remembered the first storm, the initial rescue, the community's collective effort. That storm had tested them all, a fierce reminder of nature's power and the fragility of life. But more importantly, it had revealed the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Lisa's journey had evolved far beyond her initial acts of kindness. She had become a symbol and emblem of hope, perseverance, and community strength, a living testament that even the smallest acts of service can spark monumental change. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the crisp evening air, feeling the pulse of her community beneath her feet. Each heartbeat, each story, each life intertwined in a shared journey. She marveled at how her life had transformed from self-doubt to self-awareness, from a woman hiding behind her uniform to a leader standing tall in her purpose. In her heart, she knew her story, though uniquely hers, mirrored many others across the world. People facing hardships, fighting inner battles, and finding within themselves the courage to keep going. Her story was a reminder that heroism wasn't reserved for the brave alone. It was embedded in everyday acts of love, sacrifice, and hope. She pulled out a small notebook she carried everywhere, her journal of dreams, reflections, and plans. Opening it now, she began jotting down her thoughts, inspired by the moment. She wrote about her vision, her calling to empower others beyond her community, to nurture a global movement rooted in compassion and resilience. Her mind drifted to the children she had mentored, the elderly she had cared for, the volunteers she had trained. They had all become ambassadors of hope in their own right. Her heart swelled with pride, knowing that her efforts had sparked a fire, ripple one that could grow into a wave of kindness worldwide. And then she thought of the future, her future full of possibilities. She envisioned new projects, establishing a resilient villages network, creating a foundation to support disaster preparedness education, and fostering leadership among youth from all walks of life. She saw a world where communities, no matter how small or remote, could rise above challenges, united by a shared commitment to hope. She knew that stories like hers would continue because resilience isn't a moment, it's a movement. It's an ongoing journey fueled by collaboration, empathy, and the unwavering belief that everyone has the power to make a difference. In that quiet, sacred moment, Lisa made a promise to herself and to her community that her journey would not end here. It would evolve, grow, and inspire. Her legacy wouldn't just be about surviving storms. It would be about thriving beyond them, creating ripples of hope that would reach distant shores. She reflected on the countless lives she had touched, the lessons she had learned, and the humble beginnings that had led her here. She remembered her mother's words, "Plant seeds of kindness and watch them grow into forests of hope." And so, with her notebook filled with new visions and her heart full of gratitude, Lisa turned away from the hill. Her mission was ongoing, her purpose clear. She'd continue to serve, to uplift, and to inspire, because she believed deeply that a better world was possible, a world where hope outweighed fear, compassion outran indifference, and resilience was a way of life. She walked back into her community with renewed energy, knowing that her story was just a chapter in a much larger narrative, a narrative written by countless unsung heroes, driven by love, hope, and an unwavering belief in a brighter tomorrow. And as she entered her home that evening, she looked out her window once more, her mind willfully imagining all the beautiful possibilities that lay ahead. Her journey had begun with a storm, but would continue with the steady, unstoppable wave of hope she was helping build. Her voice echoed in her thoughts, "Together, we can do anything." And she knew that someday, her story would be just one among millions, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of hope. As the evening sky faded into twilight, Lisa sat quietly on her porch, the gentle breeze whispering through the trees. The quietness wasn't just the calm after the storm, it was a moment of introspection, a time to contemplate her journey, her growth, and the profound lessons she had accumulated along the way. It was a moment to consider not just what she had done, but who she had become. Her mind drifted back to that first day, the day she donned her Walmart uniform, just a simple woman with a simple desire to serve her community. She remembered feeling invisible, almost insignificant in the grand scheme of things. A small-town girl working a humble job. Life, she thought then, was about doing one's part, about making the most of everyday moments. But that day, that storm, changed everything. When the hurricane shattered their town, Lisa discovered that heroism isn't born in the absence of fear, it emerges because of it. It's the quiet voice inside that whispers, "You can do this," even when the world around you seems to be falling apart. It's the tiny sparks of kindness that ignite into roaring flames of hope when fueled by community, compassion, and conviction. She thought of the countless lives she'd helped, families displaced, elderly residents trapped, children trembling with cold and fear. She remembered the raw, unfiltered emotion on their faces, the gratitude, the tears, the hugs, and realized that beyond the immediate acts of rescue, it was empathy that truly defined her journey. Empathy became her guiding light. She learned to see the pain in others' eyes and feel it in her heart. She learned that listening is just as powerful as acting, that a warm smile or a gentle touch can sometimes heal wounds that no physical aid could reach. As she reflected, she understood one fundamental truth. At the core of every hero's story is a simple but profound belief that every human being deserves dignity, love, and hope. That no matter how overwhelming the storms, literal or metaphorical within U.S., there is always a way to rebuild, to rise, and to flourish. Her journey wasn't just about acts of bravery during crises. It was about the everyday resilience that people summon within themselves, a resilience she had come to see as a universal, human gift. It's in the mother who keeps working tirelessly to provide for her children despite hardship, in the teacher who inspires students despite adversity, in the elderly person who, despite losing their home, refuses to lose their spark. She thought about her community's remarkable capacity to heal and grow stronger by leaning on one another. Over time, the small acts of kindness, sharing a meal, offering a listening ear, volunteering one's time, had woven themselves into the fabric of their collective strength. It was this collective resilience that transformed Millbrook from a town battered by a furious storm into a shining beacon of hope, proof that even in darkness, there is light if we choose to ignite it. And therein lies one of the greatest lessons she had learned. Hope is not just a passive wish. It's an active choice. It's a decision to believe in a better tomorrow, even when today seems overwhelming. Hope is what fuels the persistence to keep going when everything around us appears broken. Lisa looked around her small porch, taking in the familiar sights, the blooming flowers, the steady hum of life beneath the stars, the warmth of her community. She realized that her story, though deeply personal, was also universal. Her journey was shared by countless unsung heroes: the teacher who stayed late to help students catch up, the neighbor who checked in on the vulnerable, the volunteer who delivered supplies into the night. And that understanding filled her with an unshakable conviction. We are all part of this great tapestry of resilience. Each of us, in our own ways, be it grand or small, has the power to leave a positive imprint on the world. She thought about her own near defeat in the face of despair. She had once felt small, powerless even. But through her experiences, she'd come to see that real strength lies not in physical might, but in the capacity to love unconditionally, to serve selflessly, and to believe fiercely. To believe that we can make a difference. To believe that the future is worth fighting for. And to believe in the power of community, the interconnected web of lives that, when woven together with compassion, creates an unbreakable fabric of hope. Her mind drifted to the children she had mentored, the family she had helped, the volunteers she had inspired. Her actions, though humble, had planted seeds that would continue to grow long after her own story was written. Thank you for joining us on Lisa's journey today. Your time and attention mean a lot to us, and we hope her story has inspired you to face your own storms with courage, hope, and resilience. Remember, no matter how challenging life may feel, strength and hope are always within reach when we come together and believe in ourselves. If you found inspiration in Lisa's story, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue to bring more stories of hope and compassion. And most importantly, never forget, your kindness, your courage, and your resilience can make a difference in your life and the lives of those around you. And don't forget, up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. Stay hopeful, keep moving forward, and remember that brighter days are ahead. We look forward to sharing more stories with you soon. Thank you for being part of this journey.